Joy, thank you for joining Diaspora Food Stories. How are you
I'm
today?
great. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome, awesome. And you are joining from, tell our listeners where you're joining from.
Columbia, South Carolina.
All right, all right. Let me ask you this before we really dig into your story. I'm sure you're familiar with just the culture and the history of the city. I've never been to South Carolina myself, but just tell me one thing that you just love or that you've just really noticed about Columbia, South
Yeah,
Carolina, and its richness.
right. Well, I love that it's the capital of my state, so it's kind of a lot to do, but
Mhm,
it's still kind of a small city.
mhm.
So you can connect with a lot of people, like, in your connections, know your connections, know your connection. Like everybody's kind of connected in a sense. So I love the sense of community,
Awesome.
and things of that nature. So yeah.
Wonderful. Well, we'll come back to Columbia, South Carolina, but let's dig into your story, how you got started with Joy Filled Delights, and just talk about the amazing work that you're doing. So, obviously, we started off talking about Columbia because you're born and raised, but you started early. I mean, it was a passion out of the gate. So, tell me a little bit how that came to be where you started Joy Filled Delights in high school.
Yeah. So I've always loved to bake and cook. Ever since I was a kid, I would bake with my grandma, and I would go to the book fairs at school and bring home a cookbook and be like, "Mom, can we buy these ingredients so I can go make these brownies?" They didn't always come out the greatest because I was only like 9 years old at the time, but I still
Mhm.
really enjoyed it. So I knew from a young age that I had a passion for it. And when shows on the Food Network and on TLC, like The Cake Boss came out, I was like super fascinated because I've always had a love for art as well. Ever since I
Wow.
can remember, I've always loved art. So when I saw like the Cake Boss and all the out of the world cakes that he created, I was like, I combine my love and my passion for art and baking. So in high
Mhm.
school, I started playing with fondant and things of that
Mhm.
nature and sculpting and really just teaching myself a lot because the
Mhm.
access back then was kind of different. Like today, you can go on YouTube and look up different tutorials for fondant sculpted cakes. But back then, it wasn't a lot of tutorials. So a lot of things that I learned, I had to teach myself. But in high school, that's really when I knew that that was my passion and that's what I wanted to do with my life.
Wow. And was it more of the creativity? Because if you're on the savory side, right? It's
Right.
the flavors and the smells, right? That
Mhm.
draws you to the savory side. What is
Right.
it about the sweet side that draws you
Yeah.
to that?
I think for me, I've always just loved sugar.
Okay.
And I love to play with different flavor combinations, and I love to see people's reaction when they take a bite out of something that I baked and I put together, and the eyes roll in the back of the head, and oh my gosh, this is so good. It's like the best feeling creating something sweet, and I love the science behind it too because baking really is a science. Cooking is a little bit easier to, fix your mistakes during the process, but if you forget the baking powder in a cake, you got to scratch the whole thing. Like
Right.
you can't just take it out the oven and do whatever is done. So I enjoy the science and the challenge that comes with it. And I also just really like sweets and sharing that passion with other people to see their reactions as well.
Wow. Do you remember the first thing that you made where you sort of veered off of the common path, right? So there was a pound cake, but maybe you got really jazzy with it and said, okay, you know what? I got that down.
Mm-hmm.
Start to do it Joy's way. Do you remember some of
Right.
the things?
Yeah. One of my first memories of like making a sculpted cake was this woman from my church asked me to make a cake for her job, and it was like of a desk with a phone on top of it. And that was really like one of my first real orders for something out of the box, not just, piping and buttercream roses. So I really, really was like, oh my gosh, I love doing this. I love making realistic cakes. And I was a teenager at the time. So that was a really cool experience. And it was a lot more fun and fulfilling for me than
Mhm.
a normal cake, although those were fun too. I just had a lot more fun expressing my creative side with the sculpted cakes.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the evolution, right,
Mhm.
of Joy Field, because you probably started little safe,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
now we'll talk about the realistic Kates.
Hmm.
So when did that journey start to say, you know what, you started getting comfortable saying, you know what, I'm going to start to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and start to, get out the box?
Yeah, I would say honestly, when I had my daughter,
Okay.
in 2021 is when I really was like, okay, I just want to go full fledged into the realistic cake world.
Okay.
I was taking orders before I got pregnant with her, and I was taking. Not everybody wants a cake that looks like a chicken wing. Most
Right.
people don't want that. They want like your typical birthday cake,
Hmm.
which was nice. I'm thankful for all my customers, but I would get super excited when people ordered outside the box. So after I had my daughter, I had to slow down on taking orders in general because it was just too overwhelming for me adjusting to motherhood and trying to fulfill orders every single week. So I
Right.
was like, what if I just be a content creator? That way I'll have control of what I make. I make what I want to make, and I get to put my energy into creating the things that I love to create, which is sculpted cakes. So
Okay.
after I had her, that was kind of like the gateway into just doing full-time sculpted cakes.
Okay. Now, I had never heard of realistic or reality cakes. Tell
Yeah.
us a little bit about that. And is there like really a whole niche out there of
Mhm.
people baking those?
Yeah. So, yeah, there's not like a whole lot of us. So I'm familiar with a lot of the people in the baking community that do realistic cakes because it's such
Hmm.
a specific thing to do. So yeah, there's a couple of us out of the box bakers that just like to focus on sculpting cakes. So it's really fun.
How do you even start? I mean, how do you I've seen your macaroni and cheese, I've seen your pizza, I've seen your I think a Gucci purse. What's your process? Do you start with a drawing and then I mean, how do you just bring it all together?
Yeah, so the kind of artist I've always been is to look at an object and really just try to make it come to life with whatever medium I'm using.
Mhm.
I used to paint a lot, so like just capturing still work, still art, and trying to make it make look as realistic as possible. So I just kind of transferred that into the medium of modeling chocolate and fondant and cake. So I'm really
Mhm.
like just a visual person. Like I'll look at something and be like, I want to make that into a cake. It's not necessarily like a sketching out all the time for me. More times than not, I don't really sketch out beforehand.
Mhm.
Um, I just kind of think about how I want to approach it based on previous experiences and previous cakes and things that I've learned in the past. Or if one of my other baking friends have made a cake similar, I'll try to look and see how they did it and
Mhm.
take mental notes with that as well. So that's kind of my
Okay.
approach to creating the cake. Yeah.
And how long does it typically take? Like if you're making a pizza cake or a macaroni and cheese cake, how long does that take?
Yeah, it definitely takes a lot longer than traditional cakes.
Mhm.
I think the longest I've ever worked on a single cake was probably 15 hours.
Okay.
Um,
And is that consistent
but
nonstop?
oh yeah, I had to stop with that one.
Okay.
Especially now that I have a daughter, I stop a lot more
Mhm.
than I was before. But I would
Okay.
say anywhere between like 3 and 15. It can range depending on the detail and the size of it, but it usually takes a long time, especially adding all those little details, because the little
Mhm.
details are the most important to make it look as realistic as possible.
Now, what is one of your favorite realistic cakes that you've created?
I'll probably say, I don't know. There's so many. I love them all. I'll probably say my salad cake.
Oh, wow. I gotta see that
Yeah,
one. I haven't
I
seen
have
that
to
one.
send you a picture after. Yeah, it was just a fun process making the lettuce out of something that wasn't actually lettuce. Like, it was really cool and it fooled so many people. When I posted on
Wow.
TikTok, people were like, "So you just put lettuce on top of a cake and called it a cake?" Like, no, it's all cake. So I really love the reaction with that and just how realistic it looked.
Wow. So what's the one cake that you have not created yet
Mm.
that you want to or you're thinking about?
Yeah, so this year I kind of want to dive into bigger, more functional cakes, kind of
Okay.
pushing the boundaries a little bit. I want to make like a vacuum cleaner cake that can actually roll,
Oh,
like a
wow.
life size one. I think that'll be really fun. And maybe like a mailbox cake that I make a post outside and like go outside like I'm checking the mail, like, oh, just getting his cake. Those are just some of the ideas I have going on in my head right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us about your experience on competing on the cooking channel. I believe it was called the Freak Show Cakes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh,
That was really, really fun. So it was kind of crazy that time period. The night before I flew out, it was in New York. I actually got engaged. So it
Oh,
was like I got engaged one night, and then the next night I'm on a flight to go live out my dreams. I could not sleep at all. But it was really exciting. They found my work through Instagram and they reached out to me. And, we did the interviews, the applications, and it was probably one of the most fulfilling things I've ever done in my career.
mhm,
I realized how well I work under that kind of pressure.
mhm,
It was definitely stressful, but for me, it was like a fun type of stress.
mhm.
And on the TV when they're counting down like 3, 2, 1, and everybody's like they're throwing things on there, it's like that in real life. I was like, oh
Okay.
my gosh, we gotta get that on there. So it was a lot of stress. It was definitely a learning experience. Next time I'll definitely approach things a lot differently and hopefully take home the first place trophy and some cash. But it was really, really fun, and I'm looking forward to being able to do that again.
And I was going to say, you got one under your belt. Is there another one coming? But you just answered that question.
Yes, hopefully soon.
Wow. Now, there is the fun part of creating, but
Hmm.
then there's the part of running your business.
Yeah.
Tell me how, did you think as you were starting that, you know what, I can bake cakes, so, business is going to be easy or whatever, or what were some learning curves and we still continue to grow in
Oh
business,
yeah,
right?
definitely. Um, Baking for me was always the easy part, although
Mhm.
that came with a lot of its own challenges. It definitely isn't easy, but it was easier than, managing the taxes and making sure all that's paid on time and making sure you send your invoices to your customers on time and just dealing with all of that. It can be overwhelming. Um, but yeah, it was definitely an adjustment period for me.
Okay.
And it took a lot of growth and discipline when I was, taking orders because I've kind of shifted my business.
Yeah.
So yeah, now instead of working with, everyday customers, I get to work with brands,
Okay.
which I really, really enjoy doing that as
You
well.
customers at all? So if an old faithful comes and says, Joy, I
Yeah, if Old Faithful comes or if my family is like, can you make your niece a birthday cake? Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if Old Faithful comes and they're like, please, I might say yes. We'll see. But
wow.
yeah, just yeah, the business side can be difficult. But if that's your goal, it's definitely worth it.
Now, is it just cakes or do you do anything else in terms of cupcakes or
Yeah.
cookies or anything like that?
Yeah, so I do cupcakes, cookies,
Okay.
all types of different treats. Like I love to just bake in general. That's always been like a stress reliever. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I've had a hard day. Let me
Mhm.
go make some cinnamon rolls from scratch. Like
Right.
that's just always been like a passion of mine. I just love being in the kitchen.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how are you on the savory side?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty good. I actually went to culinary school for savory.
Okay.
Because I thought for a little bit that I would go maybe be a chef at a fine dining restaurant, but I quickly learned that wasn't what I wanted to be, at least not in that setting. It was just like completely different
Mhm.
vibe than baking. But I enjoy cooking as well. Like I'm a big foodie. I like playing with different cultures, different flavors, and bringing that all together. So I really enjoy that.
Now, have you experimented bringing the two together? So if you're having a roseberry mint batter or something, something.
Actually, not really. That's a good idea though.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite ingredients when it comes to making your cakes that you love to?
Mm. So for me, I like incorporating fruit into
Okay.
my cakes. So I love like a good filling, like a lemon curd or a
Yeah.
raspberry preserve jam,
Mhm.
all that jazz. I love it, and I love like homemade caramel.
Okay.
So good. Cream
Wow.
cheese frosting. Yes, I love it.
Wow. Now teaching others, and I'm sure once your daughter, I know she's, just what, 1, 2 years
Yeah.
old, still got some time yet before to
Right.
start passing that down. But inspiring the next generation. I know you do mentoring, teaching. Do we see a lot of teaching in the future for you?
I would absolutely love to have some classes in the future, have some group classes, when I can learn how to condense it down, because I know
Mhm.
nobody wants to sit in the class for like 15 hours straight. So I think it'll be fun to find something beginner level that's really cool and interactive for people of all ages
Hmm.
just come together and make really amazing cakes. Like I definitely want to do that pretty
Got
soon.
you. Now, tell me how much intensity do you put into the science piece of it? Because, like you said, it's not like cooking or savory where I can throw a pinch of this and I got a pinch of
Right,
that.
right.
So exact. And I think that's why sometimes it should be easy, but still intimidating for a lot of us.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely in the beginning, it was a lot more difficult when I was first teaching myself how to bake and learning how to bake.
Hmm.
There was a lot of trial and error and a lot of frustration and a lot of cakes and pastries in the trash can.
Okay.
So yeah, just like learning the basic science kind of becomes natural now since I've been doing it for so long.
Hmm.
But I do enjoy sometimes, teaching myself something new or things that I haven't tried before.
Okay.
So yeah.
Now, can you mention any of the brands that you've worked with?
Yeah, so I've worked with Anastasia Beverly Hills, which is a makeup company. I've worked with Chewy, which is a
Oh,
pet company. I've
mhm.
worked with Disney Plus. I worked with Acer, the computer company. Trying to think. I've worked with Stitch Fix, which is
Okay.
a fashion company, and my most recent one, my first one of the year, is BuzzFeed Tasty. So that was really fun.
Wow. In
Yeah.
terms of, a lot of chefs, they'll travel out of the country, see what's going on. What do you do to stay inspired? Well, one, where do you draw your inspiration from? And then what do you do to stay inspired to see who's doing what out there?
So I believe like social media is a great place to find inspiration, depending on the people you follow. So I like to follow people that I really look up to.
Hmm.
Natalie Side Surf is definitely a big inspiration. Her business is called Side Surf Cake Studio. I've been watching her for years. I really enjoy her cake art. Like the realism is out of this world, and I aspire to be on her level one day. So watching her and people like her really helps me to get inspired, like and just push my own limits.
Wow. So what do you think? What's next? What's 2023 looking like for you?
Ooh, I hope 2023, I just kind of take it to the next level,
Hmm.
continue to work with different brands, and hopefully be on another show, or
Okay.
at least film another show this year. Maybe
Okay.
it'll release next year, but yeah, that's definitely what I want to do this year. I definitely want to take this journey to the next level.
Now, and upping the ante, right? And as you said, just, I mean, how much further, I guess, can you become more realistic with the cakes? I
Mhm.
mean, what's the next level up from that, you know?
Right.
That's
Yeah,
so creative.
yeah. So I feel like as far as realistic cakes go, like maybe bigger in size will be next level, but also having an element where it's interactive, like a keg that actually pours out liquid that you can drink from, but it's a cake. Things of
Hmm.
that nature, I feel adding engineering into it would
Hmm.
definitely take it up like 500 notches. So that would be really cool.
Wow. What are some tips that you typically give to those that are looking to get into baking for whether it's fun or for play? Or just, having fun, or those that wanna really start to think, "You know what? I may really enjoy this. I'm gonna get out." I had an easy bake oven when I was little,
Yeah,
but now I'm, graduating to something more serious, and I wanna start looking at this. What are some tips?
right. I would say there's a lot of free resources out there,
Okay.
and a big tip would be to utilize those. YouTube University is free tuition. So
Mhm.
that's a really good resource. You can see like hands-on examples and tutorials. And I think a bigger piece of advice would be don't give up because there's going to be things that don't go the greatest or
Right.
it might be inedible.
Mhm.
So it's disappointing, but don't let that discourage you to the point of not ever trying it again. Because
Mhm.
when you try it again and it does work, it's going to be worth it. So just continue to push yourself because I wasn't always a master baker. The first cakes I made were not beautiful.
Mhm.
But years and years and years of perfecting my craft and the making, I am where I am today, and you can be there too.
Awesome, awesome. Well, before we let you go, let's dig back into Columbia. Give us some hot spots. If someone is coming into town, what are some of your favorite spots to go and eat?
Yes, to go and eat. Let me think. There's a lot of good places downtown. I would say my favorite bakery slash coffee shop is Small Sugar. It's kind
Okay.
of in the cut downtown. Like, you won't see it just driving down the street, but they have amazing French pastries and things of that nature. I would say another really good spot is Le Bamboo restaurant. It's an African spot.
Oh
Oh my
yeah.
gosh, they're so good. If you ever want to try fufu, or if you tried it before and you're looking for somewhere that has good fufu and igusi, they're your spot. They're amazing.
Wonderful. And what are some of your other, like, just in general, favorite foods and cuisines that you like?
Yeah, I love Indian food. I love Mexican food, like authentic Mexican, like corn tortillas, fresh off the grill and stuff like that. And I love Asian food. I don't know if I said that already, but yeah, in Italian, yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, any plans of traveling this year and maybe taking the realistic cakes on the road?
Yeah, hopefully I'll be able to join my baking friends at some upcoming cake conventions. We got one in Miami, Florida, so try to see if I can make it out there for that one in April. So yeah, that'll be really fun.
Awesome. Well, Joy, thanks for chatting with me today. Where can
Yeah,
people get in touch with you, whether they're a brand or just someone, an aspiring baker, etc.? Where can
yeah. The best place will probably be my email, joyfilledelights@gmail.com, or my Instagram DMs are always open,
they? Okay.
and my Instagram is joyfilledelights as well.
And you said you were on TikTok, so
I
if they want to follow you on TikTok, how do they find you?
Everything is under Joy Filled Delights, so my TikTok is Joy Filled Delights too.
Make it easy across the board, huh?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, again, Joy, it was a pleasure to get into some great talk about sweets, our favorite things, especially these cakes. I definitely encourage everyone to go and check out her social media because these cakes are amazing. Like I said, I've seen the macaroni and cheese, I've seen the pizza with the pepperoni. So if you're looking to really take that to the next level, like you said, make them functional, I'm here for it. So
Aw, thank you so much. Thank you for
awesome.
having me on today.